So, um, good morning. Hello. Welcome back to the panel Beyond the Business. How we doing?
All good.
Amazing, thank you.
Normal lot. Rochelle's back from gallivanting in Belfast from last week.
I am. Oh my god, it was amazing.
It looked fabulous.
It looked amazing. It
We,
looked really
it
good.
was. We were so lucky because we'd booked to go on a Monday to Wednesday because that was the only time as a friendship group that we could fit in. We've all got quite a lot of birthdays and stuff in August. And when we arrived, the taxi driver was like, "Are you here for the Fleur?" And we're like, "What's the Fleur?" And he was like, "A massive festival that travels around Ireland. It's the first time it's ever been in Belfast. It started on the Sunday night and it was going on until the following Sunday. So all the bars had got like live music. Like it was everything was just hustling and bustling, and a stage in the centre where they'd got loads of like Irish dancers and choirs and bands playing. It was so nice. So even I'm sure we would have had a good time anyway, but we had an even better time because it was that week. We were really lucky.
Love that.
That's lovely. What you been up to, Naomi?
It's been a blooming busy week. You probably will have seen it was the Silver Fox's 93rd birthday last Thursday.
Bless him.
So did what I knew he'd love, a little chippy supper on Thursday evening with his girls, and then I arranged a surprise party for Saturday. Got some of his friends up from Bristol, from Surrey, and yeah, I mean, I think he'll be living off this memory probably for the rest of his days. He was absolutely thrilled.
Oh, he looked like he was having the time of his life. And it was so, do you know what? It was lovely seeing a picture of your sister as well. Like, I've never seen a picture of a sister. So it's really nice to having a look and go, oh my God, those are his two girls and what have you. It was really lovely.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I was a bit, if I'm honest, a bit concerned because this last few months he's had quite a dip in his energy, just mental health, everything, obviously with the dementia and Alzheimer's. And there was a point about a few weeks ago and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not sure he's going to be able to cope with this. But I was going to be a lot bigger. And then about a couple of months ago, I decided to pull it down to a much smaller number, 16 people, absolutely perfect.
Beautiful. Well, I had a really nice weekend and I ended up going to one of my favorite spots in London. I have quite a few favorite spots in London. But I went to the Enfield playing fields, which are about a 5-minute drive from my house. And it's normally a bed of green, and it just carries on for miles, and it's just stunning. And every year, I'm surprised they haven't tried to build on it. I'm sure they have, but it's just beautiful. And to have that in Enfield or in London is just amazing. And I went there, and it was just a bed of brown.
Oh,
It was just a bed of brown. I mean, it was still nice, but normally I walk around barefoot. As you know, I love walking around barefoot. And I tried to walk around barefoot, and there's a video of me, because I thought, let me go and do some content creation. And there's a video of me trying to walk, and the stones literally prickling my feet. And there's one where I'm almost keeling over because of the pain from the hard ground and the stones, which it cracked me up. But it's a reality. But it was just so nice to just pop out and also have some deep reflection. I mean, I meditate and pray regularly anyway, but when you do it outside in nature, it's a very different. It has a different impact, and it was just lovely. It was nice. But it does take us on quite swiftly, actually, onto the topic of today, because Naomi chose today's topic, and it's the cost of the heat wave. And it's really interesting because a lot's been going on around the heat wave. So Naomi, tell us, why did you choose this topic?
Because yesterday I was out on my morning walk with my lovely 2 rescue dogs that I have looked after for 6-7 years, and I walk through this beautiful farm, a track up on the South Downs, and it's been a walk I've done for about 6-7 years. And I often bump into David, the farmer David, and his farmhand George. And you know what? I always chat with them. First of all, the rescue dogs have got really used to them, but I always chat to them because, well, I grew up in farming community in rural North Devon, and I also know how hard farming is. And I always ask him, like, how are you? Twice, not surface level. How are you really?
Go deeper.
And yesterday, oh my gosh, I was nearly in tears. Like, he was like, I'm worried. I'm really, really worried. Not for right now, for next year.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, let's use this platform. I know we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about all these different things, but farming, we know, it can be a really, really lonely and isolating, quite like entrepreneurship. And I wanted to bring on some of the things that he said yesterday, because honestly, they were an eye opener for me. We obviously, a lot of us are loving this heat wave. We're like, oh my God, it's the best summer. I'm in the sea every day swimming. I've been paddleboarding more than usual. It's wonderful. But there is also a huge cost to it that a lot of us probably aren't aware of. And I thought if I could bring that awareness, and just a few of the things he said to me was, he is already feeding his cattle with their winter food.
Wow.
Because there is no nutrients in the grass that they would usually. He has cows. His wife farms sheep in the same. They've got a lot of acres there. He farms the cows. He has bulls. He obviously breeds from them. And so the first thing he said was he's already feeding them their winter feed, which means a massive cost implication to him when the winter comes, because he'll have used everything that he has, put into place for there. The second thing is, now here's an interesting thing. The bulls won't want to mate because in the heat, they can't be bothered. remember
I don't think it's just the bulls.
Well, this is interesting you should say this, because I know from previous heat waves in the UK, we have actually had a spike in pregnancies in humans. But I also think that potentially this length of heat wave might actually have the opposite impact, because when it's just 1 or 2 heat waves, we're all like, oh my God, this is amazing. When it's like, some people are like, okay, I've kind of like had enough of the sun now. Can we have a bit of rain?
Yeah.
It's why I hated living. One of the reasons I hated living in the Middle East 30 years ago was because there were no seasons. I hated waking up to sunshine every day. Anyway, back to Farmer David. Using the winter feed already, that's going to have a massive knock-on impact on finances for farmers. That then comes on to the consumer.
Yeah.
Because what we're going to find is probably that meat, crops, everything will increase in price. The second thing is that he said, like, the bulls, they just won't be able to mate. Yeah. So therefore, he won't have the calves next year that he has projected for, that he, that's how he survives and that's his living. And all these different elements. And I was talking to him yesterday about, here I am, I was trying to like help him and support him and strategize with him. And I was like, could you this year accommodate for the heat wave? Could you keep the bulls out longer when the rain does eventually come? Could you not put them in at the time that you would usually put them in at, and actually now adapt to, the heat wave? And the thing is that we all know this isn't just an anomaly this year. This is likely that this is how our years are going to continue. And, we were saying yesterday, when you used to hear about wildfires, you used to hear about them in Los Angeles, in all these places, and you'd be like, oh my God, over there. Now these wildfires are happening an hour down the road. Like, some of them are happening in the Kent, Surrey, Sussex borders. And I think that's when it really brings it home. And we need to just think about, be mindful. And even yesterday when I was washing up, I've never been like this before, but I was like, no, Naomi, don't just run the tap for the sake of it. Like, we've got to think really mindfully now about what we're doing, because the knock-on impact on everything, I think, will be absolutely huge.
Yeah. It's funny because when you came up with this topic, I thought of so many different things. I had a session with a group of mine yesterday, and I do a process that involves burning of thoughts and everything else. And I went, don't do it. I was like, please don't do it. I was like, we're in a time of life now where the smallest spark can create a massive fire. And funnily enough, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, there was a fire on our junction on the motorway, and it had come from a, a commercial plant further deep inside, but all the smoke was coming onto the motorway, so they had to close part of the M25 because one, I mean, and I saw videos of it. It did not look clever. It wasn't going to take long before you couldn't see, but also it's the knock-on effect it's going to have to other people. Um, and just talking about different sorts of cost, if I'm really honest, I don't feel like I have, I mean, I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm still working, but I don't work well with the heat. I lived in Cameroon for 12 years. And I've never gotten used to the heat. I don't bode well with it. I don't think I've worked at a full capacity most of the summer because it's just too hot. And last night I was sat in my office and I could feel as if my body was boiling from the inside. And it was about 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, this isn't normal because this should be the cool time of the day. In most countries and continents, it gets cooler in the evening. Now, it was almost like there was a fire underneath the building coming up and rising. And I'm not going to lie, it does cause, and I'm not a distressful person, but it does cause an element of distress because it's uncomfortable. I can't think straight. And my business requires me to think. I'm the thinker. And when I'm not thinking, I'm like, okay, so I need to go look for something else to do. Something else to do. So there's different costs to the heat. And what you've pointed out around the water or just utilities in general and food is really important because I don't know about you. I go to the supermarket now and there's just hardly any food. There's more processed food than there is fresh food. And even the fresh food is food that you can tell has been stored and expires within a day or two. Take strawberries out and put them out for one day and they're gone. Like they just can't last. And it's really interesting. I bought a cabbage ages ago and that cabbage is still there. And I'm like, that's not normal. Because again, it shows that whatever, and that's a whole different topic, but it shows that the preservatives they're putting into food to keep it to last, So I think we need to help each other and be aware that the frozen food, coming back to nutrition, isn't always the way to go. The frozen processed food, especially, isn't the
Yeah.
way to go. I'm not a frozen. You'll never see an Iceland van outside my house. It's not going to
But
happen.
listen, frozen fruit and vegetable actually is better for you than
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah.
So but I agree with what you're saying there. Frozen ultra processed foods, different story, but
Yeah.
fruit and
100%.
veg, absolutely.
Yeah. So Rochelle sent me a message yesterday, and I never thought I'd. If somebody had said to me, did this message come from?" I'd be like, "Not Rochelle." And Rochelle went, "I'm hot." And if Rochelle says she's hot, it's hot.
Be hot. I think like, I love the heat, and we're off to Cyprus on holiday in a week or two, and like I will gladly lay there. I usually under an umbrella. I still tan under the umbrella. I bake rather than like burn. And I can, every time I get a bit too hot, I can jump in the pool and I can have a swim, and you can go to the room and you've got air conditioning. So like there's all these options. So when you're feeling too hot, there's things to do. But when you're that hot here and you've still got to, like, the kids are still needing feeding, and there's still jobs to do around the house. And normally I love going and sitting outside and having my first cup of tea in the morning. So this morning it was about 8:45 when I went outside, and I sat there with my cup of tea, and I had to come back inside because I was too hot. And that was at that time in the morning, which never normally happens. I'm normally fine. I was just wearing a vest top and shorts. So sometimes I go outside in my snuddy because I get a bit chilly in the morning, even if it's a nice day. And I'm normally on the settee with my blanket. And to be fair, I think last night I did have my snuddy and my blanket on, while Victoria was boiling. Because when I get tired, I get quite cold, so I find it quite easy at night time to usually fall asleep. But yeah, I feel like tonight's probably going to be a struggle. But yesterday I took the kids to the park, and it was uncomfortable to be be stood there watching the kids play in the park. It was an uncomfortable temperature to be outside.
Yeah.
And today we're just gonna stay in the house, and I might blow the paddling pool up and put my feet in it as a cooling mechanism. I think all those things are quite like, they're all selfish things. They're all just about like me feeling too hot. But like what you were talking about, Naomi, and the farmers, and like the knock on effect of that heat, and then what we're going to see in the increase of prices. Like, I don't know about you two, but like there's four of us in this house, and we are spending at least £160 a week on food shopping. Whereas a couple of years ago, I could easily keep it below £100 a week, and it's just, I don't know how, like, we bring in quite a decent amount of money into our house, and it's still like we're noticing the inflation of the cost. So for those people who are on like the minimum wage or are on benefits and stuff, I'm not sure how they are coping with the constant increase of price. So there's really not much room for prices to be able to increase and people still to be able to like put food on the table. But that's obviously the way it's going to go. So hopefully, like, the government and things are putting in strategies and things around that. And the other thing is our local like reservoirs with the water. Like, so when we drive from Sheffield to Manchester, so on the way to the airport last week, you can have a look at like the reservoir. Normally it's quite full, and it's like practically dry. So like you were saying, Naomi, around the water, and I'm saying I'm going to fill my paddling pool up. I'll probably just like put a few buckets of water in to keep it cool. But yeah, that's so we actually can't implement those cooling mechanisms without another knock-on effect of
Yeah.
using that water.
Yeah, I think my electricity bill might have gone down because, like, I've got lights. I've got big, like, studio lights to help with the lighting when I'm on video. But when most of the time I work in the dark now because it's just too, the heat generated from the lights is just too much for me. Um, it's really funny because in Africa, I saw I get loads of clips about Africa, obviously, and there was people messing around with water and and like one chucking the other person in water and everything else. And somebody said that's what happens when you don't pay for water. Now, in yes, we do have water bills in Africa, but also one of the things that we're used to doing is that as soon as it rains, we put big containers outside to collect water from the rain, and we use that water for as much as possible. So, if it's ultra clean and it's filtered, then that can be even used for cooking. But then you've got other water that can be used for washing clothes, like hand washing and mopping and everything else. So we use less water from the taps as possible. But we're not that resourceful in the Western world, especially in England. And it'll be interesting to see if anybody in the government ever suggests it. And if they did, they'd probably get a backlash from it as well. So it's like you can't win. But there's I'm not an expert at this. All I know is that it's uncomfortable. All I know is that it is going to cost us a lot. There's already a threat after the previous pandemic about food and natural resources in general. I think we're heading for a massive pandemic, and if we don't put our thinking caps on sooner rather than later, it's going to be a massive struggle, including theft as well, because people are gonna want what other people have got. Um,
Or
you-
not even need like they
yeah.
need the food, and what other options are they being provided with?
So Naomi, tell me, this farmer, what's his name? Farmer Dave. Fa-
Farmer David.
Farmer David. So bless his sweetheart. So what is, apart from feeding Winter's food and everything else and stuff, sort of like what else is he being impact, or what's the rest of the impact on him? Sorry, did he voice
Well,
it?
yeah, I mean, if you think of, like, it will be his livelihood, because if he can't breed his bulls,
Yeah.
he won't have the calves next year, and the calves obviously he takes to market. That's his kind of livelihood. But also, obviously, having to use the winter food now means that, and actually there's another reason behind the pregnancies. It's not just the bulls. What he said is, because they are not getting the nutrients.
Yeah.
It's just like human beings. Like,
Yeah.
Obviously it's not always why women, struggle to conceive. There are many different reasons, but one reason quite often can be a lack of, nutrient deficient. So it's all those different elements for him. The fact that he's using the winter food now, which will cost him in the winter. His cows aren't getting the nutrients they need to be able to be in with a chance of getting pregnant. The bulls are too hot to act on their urges, and so therefore the likelihood of actually any of the cows becoming pregnant is really, really low. So yeah, it's just, that's a knock-on impact, a massive knock-on impact. One positive thing he said was, and I didn't actually know this, he was like, grass is the most incredible, phenomenal plant out there. And I was like, really? It's just grass? And he was like, no, all we need is 1 day of rain, and that grass will thrive and come back, and it will have the nutrients quicker than you can ever imagine. We don't need a week of rain. He said we just need 1 day of rain, and that grass will all go from, like you said about when you went out at the weekend, will go from that like burnt sort of stage back to actually having, green and nutrients in it. So I don't think I've ever prayed for rain as much. I'm loving this weather, and honestly, I used to hate summer, but I certainly didn't used to enjoy summer. I used to find it really uncomfortable. Didn't like it at all. Certainly found it really stressful working in summers. I don't now, and I'm down at the beach at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, in for a swim. Yes, I've got lighting in here and in the studio and different things, but I'm all good with all of that. But now I'm thinking about it very differently from the point of view of, and also like with my dad. See, a lot of people worry about elderly people in the winter. This is actually as dangerous. Oh, and here's sorry. Here's something else. I gave blood 2 weeks ago this Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm a regular donor. I've done like 36 donations. But when I was there, they were saying to me, if you know anybody else your blood type, which is O positive for anybody watching, it's the most common blood type. So I'm not exclusive or got exciting blood. However, it is the most used blood type. It's the one that's generically used for road traffic accidents, for women who, have problems in labour. And the heat waves have caused a massive shortage. Now, there's two reasons. One is, believe it or not, the heat wave causes more accidents. So there's more road traffic accidents. Mm-hmm. There's more people being knocked off of bikes. There's more pedestrians, like tired, crossing the road, stumbling, what have you. Have you seen these videos about the people that are running to get their trains and then falling and slipping, because they're hot, because they're a little bit like out of sort of kilter?
Yeah.
So NHS Blood have announced that, and I can't tell you how many messages I got over the last couple of weeks. I was like, right, Naomi, get yourself booked in on a Friday evening, go and do it. So they've got shortages because there's more accidents happening, but they've also got shortages because people aren't going to their regular blood donations because they're enjoying the weather. They're, I'll cancel, let's sit in the garden, have a barbecue tonight. Oh, I can't be bothered to go and sit in a village hall for an hour and a half to give blood. So, there's all these things that I've been hearing this last week, 2 weeks, which is why I was like, right, you know what? I think this is a brilliant topic to bring up because we just see it as this incredible summer and this heat wave, but it's having such a massive impact on the economy, on farmers, on hospitals, on all these different things. Massive impact.
I think what we really need to look at is, obviously there's countries in the world that are much hotter than ours and cope perfectly fine, and it's the same in the winter. There's countries that are much colder than ours and they don't completely shut down when it gets cold. And as the country and the temperature and the climate is changing, we need to start looking at these different countries and being like, right,
Yeah.
what do other countries do in terms of making sure the cattle get fed when it's a drought? How do they produce their meat? How do they get people to donate blood in these
Yeah.
hot times? How do they make sure they've got enough water coming into so that we don't have to have post pipe bans and things like that. I think that's going to be the biggest thing over the next few years. And we've known this has been coming for so long, but yet it does feel like not very much has been implemented. And even like Victoria, you just mentioned about in Cameroon that you have the big water butts to collect water. And I actually had one of those at my old house, and we haven't got one here. And not for any particular reason. I think the house came with one, and it was just something we left there, and then we didn't buy one for this house. And that's something that actually would be very like cheap to do, and it means we can water the plants or use it for to paddle in rather than using fresh water. So little things like that of people just being a bit more innovative of
Yeah.
what things we can put into place, because yeah, like we've said, relying on the government isn't necessarily going to get us anywhere at any speed.
No,
Yeah.
think about like solar panels as well. Like
Yeah,
imagine now this spell of hot weather and sun that we've had. If we'd been and okay, solar panels have come in more over the last
yeah,
couple of years, and I don't know whether or not there is a legislation now with new buildings and but there absolutely should be that new, when I say new buildings, I'm talking like probably more commercial.
yeah.
There should absolutely be a stipulation that they have solar panels because like this would be generating for the months that we need it.
I know over the last few years, I've definitely seen more fields with solar panels in.
Yes.
So when you're driving past and you think, "Oh, look at all that water," and then you realise it's not; it's the
It's
Yeah.
the solar
shiny
panels.
solar panels. So maybe they
Yeah.
are doing things in the background to help with that.
I just feel, see, I'm one of these people who I never take what's the information that's given to me as gospel and stuff. I always feel like people do certain things for a reason, or say things because they want you to have a certain narrative of what's actually going on. I hear a lot about what's this thing? World, is it world? What's it called? Global warming. That's it. I hear people talk about global warming, and I feel like global warming is only mentioned when it suits the narrative. It's never mentioned when it's like simple practicalities. I don't feel like we're educated. I also feel as if summer is treat. I mean, yes. I mean, yes. The sky is blue. I don't like the heat at all. I'd rather it be 10 degrees less, dry, rain at night, and everybody carry. That's my ideal weather. So I'm not looking outside going, "Oh my God, it's glorious." I'm just going, "How hot is it outside?" That's all I'm thinking is like, "How hot is it?" And I feel like in this country, we come from such a place of lack where as soon as it's hot, it's like, "Oh my God, we never get weather like this. We're going to enjoy it," which is great. But there's no measures in how to cope with it. So how many times do we still have people either being injured or dying in seas and everything else? Like the safety aspect seems to escape us. And then as soon as it's winter, there's this perception that we're all hibernating. So, and it's almost like we're hibernating, not just from the weather, but from even thinking. And then we go through the winter, we have 1 or 2 days of snow where we can't handle it. But again, because we know, again, we're hibernating, so nobody's really thinking about it. People are grateful that they don't have to go into the office to work, and it becomes a drama. And then before we know it, the summer's back and stuff, and we're dealing with it all again. And it's almost like we don't want to deal with the fact that our our country hasn't moved in line with global weather or climate conditions. I'm not going to call it global warming, but I'm going to say the weather has changed. Or maybe the weather never changed and we just never dealt with it, but it's becoming more and more costly and more dangerous. Um, I think this is probably maybe the second summer where I've really gone into the supermarket and gone, wow, there's no food. You know,
That's
there's no,
fun. That's funny you should say that about the supermarket, because I could go to the supermarket any time of the day or the
yeah,
evening.
yeah,
I don't now.
yeah.
I go to the supermarket literally first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning, yeah,
The other day I was going to go at 6 o'clock because it was just how things figured, and it was like,
yeah,
oh, you know what, I'll go. And I was like, what's the point? There's no point. I
no,
know that there won't be any fresh produce. I know certain things that I go in and get won't be available. So
yeah,
yeah, I tend to go like first thing in the morning, because I know that it's the only time that I can get the produce that I'm looking for.
yeah, yeah. It's scary. It's and again, the quality. As somebody who loves cooking, I look at the quality of food and it's just crap. It really is. It's poor. A lot of it has been, what's the word, genetically modified and stuff
I don't
like
even necessarily think it's a genetically modified stuff. So when we went to Thailand for 6 weeks, three years ago now, and we were having like smoothies every day, and it was amazing, and eating all the fresh fruit, and the bananas were just beautiful. And then we came back and we were like, right, we've really enjoyed eating like all this fresh fruit and veg while we've been over there. Let's like start making smoothies as part of like our daily routine. And we got some bananas, and they tasted like cardboard, and we were like, why do these bananas taste like this while in Thailand they tasted so amazing? And we started like Googling like the process of getting bananas to England, because obviously they don't grow here. And it was like they pick them in Thailand or wherever they're coming from, and then freeze them for
Yeah,
3 weeks as they travel to us, and then artificially ripen them. And that were like, no wonder these bananas are so old by the time they get to us. No wonder they don't taste good. Which is back to why you were saying, Naomi, why like sometimes the frozen fruit and veg is actually so
mm,
much better, because it's frozen at source, and
yeah,
it's not being like artificially ripened or anything like that.
yeah. I hardly
yeah,
ever buy an avocado now,
oh,
because they're either rock solid, or they are literally already mushed by the time you open them. So I like, the only time I ever really have avocado now is if I go out somewhere, because I know it's got to be good, or it's going back to them.
mm. I mean, when I talk about genetically modified and stuff, I know that sort of like, you know, the original term is around scientists sort of like trying to interfere, but I still feel like it is that there is an interference with the food.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um, you know, the truth of the matter is, if food is, I mean, food now can get from Africa to here in hours if we wanted to, but we don't invest in that. We either make it longer and make it so much pricier that food now comes on. It doesn't come on. It may come on a ship, for example, which takes a bit longer, and then I feel like this is what I feel, that supermarkets panic when they get the food in, so they do whatever they can to prolong it. I don't know if you guys noticed this, funnily enough, and I've always wondered what the topic would be when we ever talk about it, but during lockdown, food stopped having expiry dates on them.
Oh
Fresh
yeah,
food,
fresh
yep.
food.
So,
Yeah,
so so now, if you go to a supermarket and you look at
Yes.
all the vegetables and fruit, you won't see it, and it stopped during lockdown
Yeah.
because it got to a certain point where they couldn't rely on the actual date anymore, and so now, and you know, you'll get like I say, whatever, bananas and stuff, and they'll go ripe overnight and become mushy and stuff, because
yeah.
it's almost like coming out of it's, it's I don't know if do you remember the film Forever Young, where Mel Gibson, they put him in a freezer and he stayed young, and as soon as he came out he started to get old again.
Yeah.
It's like that. So yeah, to me, the food part, obviously I'm so passionate about food, but I see that so much. And again, talk about the cost, you are spending more because food goes bad more and stuff. It's like you put it in the fridge and it still rots and everything else and stuff. So and you don't know what you're eating unless you're growing your own food. And even then, you have to look at the seeds and wonder where the seeds come from, because now they've started to take seeds out of food. So you now have seedless food. So it's even more difficult to grow your own food. It is. I think the deeper you go into it, the scarier it becomes. And I think everybody just needs to do their own little bit to help the planet.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted us to have that conversation today, because honestly, if I hadn't spoken to David yesterday and had that understanding, I probably
Yeah,
wouldn't have switched my tap off when I did last night. And I love a bath. Even in, I know it sounds crazy, even in this hot weather, I would happily, gladly have baths a couple of times a week. I love it because I go
yeah,
to the gym a lot and it's, relaxes my
yeah,
muscles and everything. But I haven't had I've been showering, not having a bath, being much more mindful about it. One thing that really is benefiting from this lovely weather, I should have brought them in here so that you could see them. We are having our best year ever for sunflowers.
Ah.
I know.
And
Yes,
I love sunflowers, and I buy myself flowers every single week. I've done it for, I don't know, 16 years now. Always buy myself flowers, roses, whatever's in season, peonies. But I rarely buy myself sunflowers, and there's a reason. They last a couple of days and then they are literally rank. Anyway, last week I bought myself a small bunch of sunflowers at the weekend. Oh no, my sister arrived on Thursday. That's nearly a week ago. She bought my dad a bunch. She bought me a bunch.
oh,
And I have, they're by the side of my bed. And that's over a week now. Some of them have been there. And then I added to them last Thursday. Usually within 3 days, they're in the bin. They're mush. I freshened them up yesterday, cut the stems. And honestly, I will send you a picture. They are literally absolutely glorious. And we are having our best year for them because of sunflowers, the amount
Yeah.
of sun they're
yeah,
getting.
That's it. There's definitely going to be some benefits. So, like my
Yes.
youngest brother, he's got himself a job in air conditioning. So
yeah,
I think like that's like those kind of industries. It's perfect for them. Not a lot of places in the UK, especially not how residential, have air conditioning. So that's going to be something that a lot of people are investing in the future. So I think looking at those kind of industries for people, like for people looking to get into trades and things, is going to be really useful. I think the thing that I'm taking away from this call is like how the farmer, we see the farmer is running a business, and in the same way as we're running our businesses, we need to be able to look ahead and predict these things and go like, right, okay, if when bad things happen, how do we deal with that when cash flow dries up, when we have to spend more than what we were planning on spending, or like how do we then deal with those consequences, because there's always going to be business is a roller coaster, isn't it? There's always going to be things that, like when COVID came in, you'd got two groups of people, a group of people that really struggled and it was the end of their business, and a group of people who really flourished and took off and it was the start of something amazing. And it's like, how can we be those people that anything that's negative that's happening, how can we turn that into a positive, so we're the ones that flourish in those circumstances.
Yeah.
yeah. I want to say this as well. As we sort of like wrap up and everything else, I want to say things like air conditioning. I know some people will argue that it's not environmentally friendly, but it's like as soon as it gets cold, go and get if it ever gets cold, go and get your air conditioning. That it's better to do it in the winter than to panic in the summer. Also, especially if you've got a garden or a balcony, you know, put stuff out there. Put like a little bowl and let the rain. If it rains at night, you don't even just put it out there and just see what it collects and stuff. Even if it's just water that you can use to maybe clean your house with, like do the dusting and everything else, it's better than nothing. It's just like little steps rather than feeling like the tap has to be on all the time. Be mindful how you do your dishes and what have you. Like, I know some people like to switch the tap on and then wash, and it's like the water just keeps on flowing and everything else. It has nothing to do with how much the water's costing now. It's about the, like, I think Naomi said the reservoir. Like I used to work. I used to contract for Severn Trent in Coventry. They do go dry, and when they go dry there is a panic, and if there's no water you've got nothing. And it's better. And what people don't think of is when you don't have water, people think, oh, the water coming from the tap, but it also means the toilets. It means it's the whole knock-on effect. It's also hygiene, like the people that you're coming through with and stuff. It's like the germs and everything a lot more rife. So it's trying to understand what no water actually means,
Yeah.
let alone dehydration and everything else. And again, we don't want to be in a situation where we're fighting for water like we are for toilet roll, like we did. We don't want to do that. So it's I think it's just being a bit mindful, and all of us just doing our own little bit moving forward.
Yeah, I think we underestimate. Like, I've been guilty of this in the past. Like, I have my keep cup, and I never, ever, ever now have coffee shop takeaway cups. Never. And I've done that for, I don't know, actually, ever since I moved here to Brighton, 15 years. That has been a thing. And I often think, like, what difference does that make? But actually, 15 years of drinking coffees at a takeaway shop, I can
Yeah.
tell you, I've made a significant impact. And I think that's where sometimes I've been guilty in the past of saying, oh, you know what, just me not getting the plastic bags, it makes no difference. Like everybody else, not everybody else, but other people still get them. But I think that's where we need to take back that personal responsibility and say, you know what, I can't control what everybody else does. I can control me. I can share with others
Yeah.
to try and help them to get on board. And I think that's, if this today has the ripple effect, and, the three of us talk to our families, our friends, it goes out on the panel, and we can share the message, then you know what? Maybe we can have a bit more of an impact.
No, definitely.
Do you know what? Do you know what we do? I'm just thinking. So I was going to wrap this up, but I just want to say something. So in Cameroon, um, I remember my grandma didn't have a tap in her house, um, but luckily she lived about a 2 minute walk away from the community tap. But my sister still had to go and collect water in buckets and walk up the hill and collect it and put it in a communal thing for food, for bathing, for this, for that. Now she does have there's taps in the house and what have you. She's long gone. But one thing that I notice in Africa, especially in Cameroon, is in our house we don't pay for water. But the only reason why we don't pay for water is my dad years ago, God bless his soul, asked for a well to be dug,
Mm-hmm.
and our well now is connected to a water distributor that is then connected to the taps and everything else. So we have water. So you'll never ever hear my mom going, "Oh my God, why are you wasting the water and stuff?" Because not that we do, but it wouldn't and stuff. So I think it's like coming up with ideas like that, like people who have houses, what can be done? Because if you dig deep enough, you will meet water and stuff. And sort of like, how can that help you? It shouldn't just be, some flowy, come to Jesus person who wants to live against off the grid and stuff, who should create that. It's like we can all do that, and maybe, and even like big apartments and stuff. Like if an apartment invested in that, how much would that save, you know, the world overall? But we don't do it. And I feel like Africa, and I think that's probably why people are moving more towards Africa, because we've got more what's the word, more nutritional basis for our food. The food grows better with, when the rain falls, it's distributed better and everything else. So something to think about. We need to learn from Africa.
Yeah.
Naomi, final thoughts.
Mm.
Sorry. Okay, Rochelle, and
There's
then
my final thought. Stay hydrated in this hot weather.
there you go. Rochelle, final thoughts.
I think for me it's that planning ahead, seeing what's coming, and how can you implement that, whether it's in your business or in your personal life, to help the planet, help others.
Right. Well, that was a great one. Thank you ever so much. Enjoyed that. We will see you next week. We will be around next week. And we're getting to a point in September where I think, is it the 9th,
Yes.
8th or 9th, where we're not going to be around. So
Correct.
I'm being a bit mindful about that and stuff. But we will be here next week and we look forward to seeing you soon. Remember, if there's any sort of like topics that you want to talk to us about, if you want us to put it onto the agenda, let us know and we'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.